All right. Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast. On a Monday, that must mean that it's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. I'm Eric, and with me is James. James, how you doing?
I'm doing just dandy. How are you?
Dandy. Ooh, I like that word. I am doing excellent, my friend. Welcome to our weekly stream. How have you been? Making progress, I'm rumored to hear.
Yeah. I was excited to show you where we last left off last week on stuff. The scenes, the scenes that I showed last week are pretty much done.
Wow.
Now, with all that being said, of course, as I was trying to fire up my computer tonight to get ready for our stream, of course, it doesn't want to fully cooperate and make my life interesting. So we'll
Well, I
see.
guess I will take the opportunity then to apologize because I know I said I was going to get you those new tear licking sound effects, and alas, I did not come through. I got busy with life stuff. Not that that's ever an excuse, is it? But that is the truth. But you should
Yeah.
have the other sound effects. I did a bunch. I already got a bunch of the ambience already. So
Oh, that's great. I mean, we'll put it in. We can put it in at at some point and talk about it in another episode. Touch back on
yeah,
these.
this is a weird week, obviously, because it's Thanksgiving week, and I know people have plans and stuff. And this is I am a Scrooge. I'll admit that. I'm partially it's because I do freelance work. The craziness around the holidays always wreaks havoc on me. Because I don't get Thanksgiving off, I don't get Christmas off or New Year's off.
Mhm.
But then the people that I work for who are full time employees, they do get those days off. It's just sort of like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna work, but um, in any case, so it always like throws all of your plans into the air for like basically an entire month,
Yeah,
and then things start calming back down again in January.
yeah, exactly. Because it does kind of flow into December and holiday season, and everything else. It's mixed in there like Black Friday or Black Monday or whatever other day of the week that they deem as a holiday of some sort to.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
thing.
So,
Um,
in any case, um, but yeah, hopefully in the near future we'll get that we'll get all the sound in there and running and looking really smooth.
Yeah, and again, the great thing is for sound, we can always kind of put that towards like pretty much the latter part of production anyway, and it shouldn't impact anything too much. Maybe pushing some frames around.
Don't tell a sound designer that. I worked in the games industry for many years, and I worked as an audio producer for some of that time. And oh, brother, the audio department in the video games industry, whenever a producer will put together a schedule, they got engineering covered, they got characters covered, they've got environment covered, they got design covered. Cool, we've got our schedule mapped out. And you're like, is post production is a thing, right? There's
Yeah.
audio, there's testing, there's all this stuff, and I,
Oh,
you
you've
know,
seen it. You've seen it. It's good.
a lot of my career was in the end of the pipeline, and I spent many a meeting, going what, but like you need to give us more than one day to do the entire audio
Ah,
for the entire game.
just the day.
Oh man,
All right. Well, I'll share my screen with everything that's here, not post production.
yes,
We'll carve some time after that. But I'll share my screen here, and we'll get right to it. Share computer sound. Okay. I see this little checkbox says share computer sound, optimize screen sharing for video clip. Do you ever bother doing that? The optimize screen sharing for video?
I have not. That sounds like a new thing. Zoom has been doing a few updates. I I leave it to your expert opinion about whether or not you want to click that magic box or not.
I am.
Um,
I'm going to leave it unchecked for now
okay.
because since we've started this, I've never checked it, and
Yeah.
we always seem to have luck. So I'll keep it the way we do it.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and play this again, and hopefully this is the right version, the most latest version. Again, my computer was acting weird, so we'll see. But here we go.
I'm confident.
All right, and then I did check my sound. Let me know if you don't hear sound on your
Okay.
end, but I think we're good.
Leon!
I hear something.
It's all right, Calamity. I don't have much time left.
Don't say that.
Listen, I want you to take my hat, my duster, and my guns. They're yours now.
Do I have to? Tan isn't really a good color on me.
They've been passed down from mentor to student at least twice. So yes, you have to.
Okay.
It's not long now. Make me one more promise.
Anything.
Promise me. Promise me you won't ever wear a Hawaiian shirt.
Ew! Why would I do that?
Promise me.
Sure, that's easy. Can we talk about that hat for one more second? Leon!
It's all right.
There we go.
Calamity.
That is it.
So there was
Pretty-
two subtle things that you added that I love. One when he puts his hand on Calamity's shoulder
Uh-huh.
before the Hawaiian shirt line, and then
Yeah.
when she raises her finger, that was great. Like what? Those are like little subtle gestures that I loved. Both of those were just really just with like 1 second. That was
Yeah.
both of those were great.
Cool.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, that looks great. It's just really exciting to see these scenes come together and actually get wrapped up. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sharing your enthusiasm too. I'm happy to bring, I'm happy to see these characters kind of start to breathe and start to emote and say stuff, and you can actually see them. You get a kind of feel for how they are a little bit. Um, yeah, and there was some, yeah, and I know we have it all storyboarded out. We talked about it in the script, but there, as you're animating, sometimes you find little spots where you want to do one or two little subtle little things, but they add something else to it
Yeah.
as you go forward. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was super fun to watch. It's really amazing to see it come to life and to see the finished product because I mean to a large extent it's lived in our heads for so long, you know, and only in our heads and in various states of completion. Obviously, the script was written and we've
yeah,
had storyboards and animatics, but all of those are very much pre-production kind of things and to see the finished product, and this is like minus the final audio mix and some missing sound effects. I mean, this is pretty much done.
yeah.
It's really great. I can't wait to see what comes next. Honestly.
So just for us, this section was roughly about a minute and 12 seconds, and so as far as animation was concerned, I started working on this about what 2 streams ago, I guess.
Yeah, about two weeks ago.
Yeah, so I ended up been picking at it part time. So it's a good. I don't know. I would say with setup and everything else, I think we've got about a good week's worth of work kind of done here within the past few streams or so. So it's been kind of chugging away. And what's good is again I can recycle some of this stuff for other scenes, so we can keep moving forward on some stuff. But yeah, this scene was kind of fun because gets a chance to have Calamity just talk. As much as I'm not a big fan of talking head scenes a lot. I think it was important to kind of get in the headspace of her and how she's going to be. It's setting the groundwork for how she's going to be the rest of the episode. So it was
Mm-hmm.
good that we spend time with her, kind of just hanging out, talking, and we get to see her be a teenager too and stuff like that, and talk about her own fashion sense and all that. So it was good.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No, and
love fun.
it's interesting. I mean, like the pilot is the script is a little bit longer, I think, than like what most of the scripts ended up being, or have been so far, because I think we're in our heads we're more thinking about the Adult Swim, well, the older Adult Swim format of 15-minute long episodes. Um, but this one will actually come in probably closer to about 20 minutes. There's just a lot of ground to cover for this first episode.
Yeah. All true. Yeah, it does feel like compared to episode two, episode two does go really. It feels like it goes much faster. Again, I can't wait
Episode
to.
two, yeah, from a writing standpoint, like there's not a lot of dialogue in episode two. I'm hesitant to go into too much details, but I think it'll be really fun, and I think, and this is probably not giving too much away, but you building out Dry Gulp Gorge in 3D, particularly for some of the shots, will be super valuable since most of the episode takes place in and around the streets of Dry Gulp Gorge.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that was kind of the reason why I started putting on a 3D hat because I was trying to future proof our next episode. Because
yeah,
in my mind, I think I've said this before. One of my favorite characters is in episode two. So
yeah, yeah,
I am showing a lot of favoritism towards that episode. I love this episode too. I mean, I love them all. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, but that one's a fun one, only because you and I know some of the arc, some of the stuff that we want to have planned out based on episode two. But
And here's my
yeah,
favorite part is then for episode 3, after all the groundwork you're doing, we then immediately leave Dry Gulp Gorge, and most of that episode takes place in a cave, and so you have to create all these new background assets.
I don't mind that. Cave. I mean, there's some thought that needs to go into that, but it's much different than thinking about buildings and stuff. I don't mind.
That's true.
I feel like it might be a rest. Give me a little bit of a breather, which is nice. Visually thinking about something. Okay, great. But you know
Well,
what? It is his cave, so I have to think about. Yeah, that's a whole. That's a
yeah,
whole. Thing we can
yeah,
talk about
yeah,
later.
yeah. Well, I agree. It's not just any cave. Like this cave is an important cave. So,
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Now I do have to think about it a little bit. But anyways, that's episode three. So we're still in episode one. So
yeah, exactly. We've got treatments through episode 6 at this point, so we've got plenty of things, plenty of grist for the mill, as it were. So you've opened Blender, which says to me that you're going to get back into Townworks, which means that did I accidentally lay a perfect accidental transition into what you're going to talk about tonight?
almost. We're on the same track as far as opening up Blender, but the thing I was going to show you tonight is nothing to do with town stuff at all.
Oh no.
So it has everything to do with walk cycles.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I wanted to talk about this tonight too, for Calamity Jane and how, and I'm barely fleshing this out, but how she's going to actually walk.
You're doing a walk cycle in Blender.
Yes, I'm doing actual drawing in Blender using Blender's tool called Grease Pencil. It's
Okay.
a fantastic tool. So if you're in animation and you want to do 2D drawing in a 3D space, I'm sorry, Blender's kind of taking the cake in my opinion.
Hmm.
As far as it's pretty legit. As far as doodling stuff now, I'm starting to kind of I'm enjoying trying out Blender's tools now. I'm trying to see what we can use for us going forward. But so I'm gonna turn on some onion skinning a little bit and kind of play around some settings here and there. But for the most part, what I wanted to show is uh, there's two things we need to kind of handle, which is her with the tail and her without the tail.
Okay.
So as I was doing this walk cycle now, so I haven't finished it off yet. Let me just flesh this out real quick. As I was doing her walk cycle, I was thinking like, okay, she's gonna have a different kind of a gait when she is dragging her tail. It's almost and I mean, because the tail's sort of like a metaphor for puberty, teen angst or teen stress. So she's not going to be. I was thinking she's not going to be like. It's not going to be a jovial, happy kind of energetic walk. It's going to be more like she's dragging the weight of the world behind her, kind of a thing.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so I wanted to kind of draw this while we're chatting tonight, just to kind of hear what your thoughts are about that too, because her with a tail versus her without is very very different.
Yes.
So
Well,
Yeah.
when we moved into making Calamity the protagonist, one of the sort of the underpinning themes of the show became the awkwardness of growing up.
Hmm.
And the tale very quickly became sort of a metaphor for that, of being awkward in your own skill, right? And this was also to draw an intentional dichotomy with Chaos, who has this very nimble, prehensile tail, which in original some of the original story concepts he used even as a weapon, right, to defeat robots and things of that nature.
Hmm.
Um, and to me, I basically agree with you that the tale represents the awkwardness that all of us go through as we grow up. I mean, I remember some summers when I would shoot up 2 or 3 inches in a summer, and it felt like I didn't know where my fingertips ended, right?
Hmm.
Um, and there's just this incredible clumsiness that comes from the rate that your body changes over a period of time, and I think that is very representative in how Calamity feels about her tail.
So, with that being said, now I guess we can kind of, I guess, like, what have we talked about in episode one? I mean, we've talked about like what can we what you're gonna have to hold me to this because I can't remember what we talked about. We shown Act Three and what happens to Calamity? Have we?
I mean the all of the animatics are up on Patreon.
Okay, so it's safe to talk about what happens in Act
I
Three.
feel like I feel like really there's not a huge amount of spoilers for this first episode. Um, uh, so I think it's more about future episodes that we want to be careful about. And
Yeah.
there are a few scenes obviously that we're not showing just yet. But yeah.
So in Act Three, this is where she gets her. She she kind of she in Act Three, her tail does get it. She does lose it,
And don't worry,
and
everybody, since she is an amphibian, it does grow back, whether she wants it to or not.
yeah, yeah, because and as a result of that, I have to think about how we're going to handle her in mobility form, for lack of a better name for it, because this is her standard form, what we're doing now. Then there's mobility form, which is her actual as close as she can be to like a normal teenage human or superhuman for her in her eyes, where she can do all kinds of things all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
all because she doesn't have the weight of the world behind her on the tail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I started thinking like, okay, I need to kind of figure out what uh, what exactly I am going to do when we get to that point.
So in terms of your walk cycles, obviously you're working on the one with her tail right now. Um, how are you imagining? Are you going to do a lot of blend animations for the walk cycle with a few key frames, or are you going to do a pretty detailed walk cycle for her?
The walk cycle is going to be pretty. It's not going to be overly. It won't be that overly smooth or complicated. I think I'm going to try to keep it to frame by frame type of stuff. But here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing: I'd really like to do, and now I don't know if I have the skill set yet to do this, but I do want to do. Let me see if I can show. I want to eventually take this and turn it into a 3D space and turn her into an actual model that walks.
Oh wow!
So I can actually reuse. I don't want to keep drawing her over and over again and try
Yeah.
to solve the same problems for different angles. So what I'd rather do is build the model out. So you can see here, this is why I'm using Blender. I mean, to Blender to draw, to help me start thinking about her 3 dimensionally and start making these 3D shapes based out of these 2D drawings. And hopefully, it might save us a little bit of effort, drawing wise, for doing walk cycles, because I don't want to spend time doing walk cycles. I want to spend time doing you poses, or
Right,
her
right,
reaction to
right. The
stuff.
sexy
Uh,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the last thing I want to do is have to think about like I have to have her walk. I have to have her walk towards camera. I have to redraw all those drawings again. You know, it's a little bit of a different. It's almost like we've already invented the wheel once. Now I've got to reinvent the wheel again and draw it from a different angle. I still want to do that. And I'm being a lazy animator, I guess, by saying that. But that's kind of that's kind of where I'm at.
No, no, the number of like it's interesting, and now obviously they've basically just abandoned 2D in Hollywood, but I remember when 3D was really starting to come into its own, and people were learning that you could do it for more than just Disney cartoons and or Pixar cartoons specifically at the time. And I remember watching multiple featurettes, one for The Emperor's New Groove, where they use 3D for the real tedious stuff. There's a scene where John Goodman's character is pulling a cart through a bumpy forest, and they
Mm-hmm.
used CG to animate that rather than hand draw all of
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the film The Triplets of Belleville, which is also like if and I'm sure you've seen it, but for anybody watching who has not seen The Triplets of Belleville, you've got to watch that cartoon.
It's a
Oh,
beautiful
it's
movie.
a masterpiece. They did the same thing where at one point they were fixing a tire wheel, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and or a bike wheel rather, and rebalancing it. And rather than animate that by hand, they used CG to handle it. And it
Yep.
was interesting to sort of use 3D to see animators use 3D to take care of the tedious stuff so that they could put more of their attention on the stuff that really makes a difference to audiences.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and and audiences, they're not. Are they gonna study that wheel being hand drawn 50 billion times?
I mean, I think that that's what their logic was, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think that makes sense. And also some of the more complicated stuff, with like in the triplets of Belleville, where they're out in the ocean on that tiny little boat, they use CG to handle some of that wave stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, I've seen 2D animation where, like, what was it, The Last Unicorn? I
Yep.
mean, the water stuff that they did that turned into the unicorns like cresting in the foam of the waves. I mean, God. But
Yeah. Good stuff.
yeah, but in that moment though, that's something that you really do want to commit all of that time to. But speaking of animation and CG and the blend of all that stuff, I've been watching the new Animaniacs on Hulu.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's definitely worth. Man, based on what you told me, I watched the first episode myself. It was great.
Yeah,
It's terrific. It's a nice reboot.
it really is, and
And
it's
it's very tongue in cheek, and it makes fun of itself. It's just like how it was in the '90s too. I mean, it's
yeah,
just really well done.
yeah,
Um,
it's quite good, and I'm glad that they got all the original voice actors to come back. And
mhm.
I'm if I haven't said this on this stream, I know I've said it to you. Marisa LaMarche and Tress McNeil may be two of the greatest voice actors like ever. Just oh god.
They're picking the brain.
Yeah, well, Tess McNeil is she plays Dot obviously, and
Uh,
she does a lot of the more whiny, crazy, nasally characters. She
so she
does
does.
Cat Lady in The Simpsons, and
Uh,
she does a million characters in The Simpsons. But she's just got this amazing voice that is just hilarious anytime she does any sort of performance. But yeah,
mhm.
Maurice LaMarche does the brain. Yeah.
So who does Pinky?
Pinky is the guy. Oh, I'm forgetting his name. It's the guy who does Yakko.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but it was fun to see. It was fun to see all those characters again, and yeah, it hasn't really missed a beat. I was kind of I was a little skeptical because it's been like 20 years. So what's funny is I work with people that worked on the original series, and I've worked with people that have worked on the new series. So it's kind of weird, but again, they're just two different generations of people
Yeah.
uh, in my travels that have now worked on Animaniacs, and the basic gist of it is all good.
It's
I'm pretty happy
interesting
with it.
in some of the character designs almost have a Ren and Stimpy vibe to them. It's interesting. Lots of butts. I don't remember them being as obsessed with butts in the original Animaniacs as they are in this new version. I do remember them being obsessed with butts in Ren and Stimpy, though. So maybe that's what's triggering it. It's just the obsession with butts in a comical fashion, right? Not in a sexual fashion, but like just shaved butts and landing on butts and that kind of stuff, you know.
Really, what's funny is I didn't notice that. I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't like 100% glued to it, but when I was watching, I don't remember that as much. But that's interesting.
I don't know. I pick up on weird things. Maybe I'm obsessed with butts, and really, like, who isn't? I guess you. I guess so. Um,
It's funny.
but no,
Yeah,
it's all really hilarious. And the songs are always as funny as
yeah.
they were, and so
The songs were great. I thoroughly enjoyed episode one. So have you finished the whole series? I mean, did you binge it all?
I've finished. I've watched about 9 episodes. And I don't know how many there are in this new run. But some of the sketches have been a little bit flat, but for the most part, they're all really stellar. And finally, starting in about episode 8, they've started introducing new characters because for a bunch of the first episodes, it's just the Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, which are great. Don't get me wrong, but I miss like the Good Feathers, and I miss the chipmunk characters whose names I don't remember off the top of my head right now.
I
There's
enjoyed Mime Time.
Mime Time, yeah, yep,
Yeah, I
yep.
enjoyed him a lot.
So those
Um,
types of shorts start showing up again, but with new characters though. Like
oh,
they're not.
okay.
It's interesting that it's to this point, and they do. There is an episode where they bring back all the old characters very briefly.
Mhm.
I won't explain the context. But for the most part, the new sketches with the new characters they're all new. They're not going back to the well for the most part,
Okay.
which is good. I like it because the new characters are really funny, really funny. There was
Okay.
one that was just like, where did I mean the in episode 9 they introduced this character, and I won't say anything. Just watch the episode, but it's like, where did that character come from? It's so off the wall, but it is so hilarious though.
That's that's cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to eventually getting around to binge watching more episodes.
Yeah, and the ever funny John DiMaggio does the voice of this new character. Who I love John DiMaggio. I think he's a phenomenal voice actor. So
Cool. Um, as far as the animation here,
yeah, it's interesting. I can see that she's got a lot of her weight shifted forward, right?
yep,
Because
yeah,
she's
because she's not
pulling it
drag.
along. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so one thing I want to do, and as I refine this walk cycle, I'm gonna have her head kind of going more towards like this, kind of bobbing that way.
Yeah,
And like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll fine tune that. But I think hopefully for next week, I'm gonna have a version of her without the tail, so we can kind of see a difference. How
Hmm.
she'll walk.
Yeah,
That's
it'll be
cool.
interesting to do an A/B comparison uh, with how her weight is distributed with tail versus without tail.
Yeah. So I think for next week, we'll try to aim for that, and I'll play around in the world of Blender some more, and maybe we'll start dabbling in 3D as well. I mean, there's all kinds of places to go now that we have that one section out of the way. I mean, there's another section I could pick out too. So I don't know. It's a whole basket full of randomness that could happen for next week as far as what we might be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. But I think we're up at 30 minutes, so we'll
Okay.
say our goodbyes, and then we'll see y'all next week. But yeah, as always, you can check us out on Patreon. You can go to Patreon directly, or just visit calamityjane.rocks. It'll take you right to the Patreon site. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube, which is presumably where you're watching this video right now. And otherwise, stay safe, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.